The smoke crept under the door like ghostly fingers reaching for help. Candace Johnson stood frozen in the hallway, her cleaning cart abandoned beside her, as the acrid smell filled her nostrils. Room 13. The one room she had been warned never, ever to enter. The head housekeeper's words from 3 weeks ago echoed in her mind with sharp clarity. You will be terminated immediately if you so much as touch that doorknob. No second chances. No explanations. Just pack your things and leave. But smoke meant fire. Smoke meant someone could be hurt. Smoke meant she had perhaps seconds to make a choice that would either save a life or cost her the job that was paying for her mother's chemotherapy treatments. Candace's hand trembled as she reached for the brass doorknob. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might burst through. The metal was warm under her palm. Not hot, but warm enough to confirm her fears. She thought of her mother lying in that hospital bed, weak and frail, counting on Candace's paychecks to cover the treatments insurance wouldn't touch. She thought of the bills stacking up on her tiny apartment's kitchen table. She thought of how long it had taken to land this position at the Blake estate, how many rejections she'd endured before this opportunity. Then she heard it. A soft cough from inside the room. Someone was in there. Her decision crystallized in that moment. She could always find another job. She couldn't live with herself if someone died because she chose money over a human life. Candace turned the knob and pushed the door open, stepping into the forbidden space that would change everything. The room was larger than she expected, bathed in natural light from floor-to-ceiling windows. But what stopped her cold wasn't the size or the brightness. It was the walls covered in paintings, hundreds of them, depicting scenes of beauty and pain. It was the easels scattered around holding works in progress. It was the young woman huddled in the corner near a table where a thick candle had tipped over, its flame licking at a cloth napkin that produced the smoke. The woman couldn't have been more than 25, with long dark hair and striking blue eyes wide with terror. Not terror of the small fire, Candace realized. Terror of Candace herself. Please don't hurt me, the woman whispered, pressing herself further into the corner. Please. I'll be good. I'll stay quiet. Just don't hurt me. Candace quickly grabbed the napkin and stomped out the small flame, then turned to the trembling woman with her hands raised in a peaceful gesture. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm Candace. I work here. I'm a maid. Are you okay? Before the woman could answer, heavy footsteps pounded down the hallway. The door burst open wider and Harrison Blake, the billionaire owner of the estate, appeared in the doorway. His usually composed face showed raw panic. Candace, he said, his voice tight. Step away from her. Slowly. Mr. Blake, I know what you just did, he interrupted, moving carefully into the room. And we need to talk. Right now. Have you ever been caught between doing what's right and losing everything you've worked for? Drop a comment below and let me know what you would have done in Candace's position. And if you want to see how this story unfolds, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. 3 weeks earlier, Candace had arrived at the Blake estate with hope blooming in her chest for the first time in months. The mansion sat on 15 acres just outside the city, a sprawling testament to wealth that made her feel small as she walked up the stone driveway for her first day. The pay was almost double what she'd made at her previous cleaning job, and the health benefits would cover the gap in her mother's treatment costs. Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper, was a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She'd taken Candace on a tour of the estate, explaining the cleaning schedule and expectations with military precision. The rules were simple enough. Clean thoroughly, be invisible when Mr. Blake was home, never gossip about the household, and maintain absolute discretion. Then they'd reached the second floor's east wing, and Mrs. Patterson had stopped in front of a white door marked with a simple brass number, 13. This room, Mrs. Patterson had said, her voice dropping to something cold and final, is completely off limits. You do not clean it. You do not enter it. You do not even look at it for too long. If you value your position here, you will pretend this door doesn't exist. Am I clear? Yes, Candace had replied. But why? No questions. That's another rule. You don't ask questions about room 13. Ever. Mrs. Patterson's eyes had held a warning that made Candace's skin prickle. "Girls before you have been let go for less." One opened that door out of curiosity. She was escorted off the property within the hour. Candace had nodded, swallowing her questions. She needed this job too desperately to risk it. But as the days turned into weeks, her curiosity grew like a living thing inside her chest. She couldn't help but notice the patterns. Every morning at 8, Mrs. Patterson herself carried a covered tray up to room 13, knocked twice, waited, then returned with the empty tray from the previous evening. The same ritual happened at 1 in the afternoon and again at 7 in the evening. 3 meals a day, delivered with clockwork precision. Sometimes, when Candace cleaned the hallway nearby, she heard soft music drifting from under the door. Classical piano, mostly. Once, she thought she heard crying, but the sound was so faint she couldn't be sure. Another time, she distinctly heard 2 voices, one male and one female, though she couldn't make out the words. The rest of the estate was easier to understand. Harrison Blake was a man of routine and quiet sophistication. At 35, he'd built a tech empire that had made him one of the youngest billionaires in the country. But wealth hadn't made him arrogant. He was polite to the staff, remembering names and saying thank you. He spent most of his time in his office on video calls or reading in the library. He rarely had guests. Candace had learned from the other staff that he'd been married once. His wife, Catherine, had died in a car accident 2 years ago. The house still held traces of her, photographs in silver frames showing a beautiful blonde woman with a bright smile. Harrison never spoke of her, but sometimes Candace caught him staring at those photos with an expression that made her heart ache. "He's a good man dealing with grief," Mrs. Patterson had told her once. "We give him privacy and respect. That's how we show we care." But what about room 13? Who was behind that door? And why the extreme secrecy? Candace tried to push the questions away, focusing instead on her work and the relief of each paycheck. Her mother's first round of chemotherapy had shown promising results. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. That was worth any amount of curiosity. Yet every time she walked past that white door with its brass number, she felt the pull of the mystery. What could possibly be so important, so secret, that merely opening a door warranted immediate termination? The answer would come sooner than she expected, in a moment of crisis that would reveal not just the contents of room 13, but the depth of pain and love that had created its existence in the first place. The fire alarm's shrill scream shattered the quiet afternoon like glass breaking. Candace dropped the dust cloth she'd been using in the guest bedroom and ran toward the sound. Her training kicked in immediately: locate the source, assess the danger, evacuate if necessary. The alarm was coming from the second-floor east wing. Her stomach dropped. That was where room 13 was located. She sprinted down the hallway, her sneakers squeaking on the polished hardwood. Other staff members would be coming, but the east wing was far from the main areas of the house. She might be the first to arrive. As she rounded the corner, she saw it, grey smoke seeping from under the white door, curling upward in lazy spirals that belied the potential danger. "Hello," Candace called out, pressing her hand against the door. Warm, but not scorching. "Is anyone in there? Can you hear me?" A muffled sound came from inside. Not words, but definitely a human noise. Someone was in that room, and they might be in danger. Candace's mind raced. Mrs. Patterson was off the property running errands. Mr. Blake was supposed to be in meetings downtown all afternoon. The other staff members were scattered across the vast estate. By the time she found someone with authority to open the door, it might be too late. The smoke was getting thicker. She thought of her mother, of the promises she'd made to take care of everything, to keep the job that was saving her life. She thought of Mrs. Patterson's stern warning: immediate termination, no second chances. She thought of the bills and the treatments and the hope that had been growing each day. Then she heard it again. A cough. Soft and frightened. There was no choice, not really. Some decisions make themselves. Candace grabbed the doorknob, said a quick prayer, and pushed the door open. The first thing that struck her was the light. Huge windows let in brilliant afternoon sunshine that seemed at odds with the smoke hanging in the air. The second thing was the art. Paintings everywhere, covering nearly every inch of wall space. Landscapes, portraits, abstract pieces bursting with color. The room was a studio, complete with easels, brushes in jars, tubes of paint scattered on tables. The third thing was the woman. She was young and thin, dressed in paint-stained jeans and an oversized sweater. Her dark hair fell past her shoulders in waves. But it was her eyes that caught Candace's attention. They were blue and beautiful, and absolutely filled with terror. The woman had backed herself into the far corner of the room, near a small table where a large candle had fallen over. The flame had caught the edge of a cloth napkin, creating the smoke that had triggered the alarm. It wasn't a major fire, not yet, but it could become one quickly. "Please don't hurt me," the woman whimpered, her whole body shaking. "I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't take me away." "Hey, it's okay," Candace said softly, holding up her hands to show she meant no harm. "I'm just here to help. I'm going to put out this fire, all right? Then we'll talk." She moved quickly to the table, grabbed the burning napkin with her bare hands, and dropped it into a nearby metal trash can. The flames died immediately. She turned on a small fan to help clear the smoke, then turned back to the trembling woman. "Are you hurt? Did you breathe in too much smoke?" The woman shook her head, still pressed against the wall like she wanted to disappear into it. "You're new. You're the new cleaning lady. Candace. I've heard Mrs. Patterson talking about you." "Yes, that's me. And you are?" "Violet," the woman whispered. "Violet Blake. Harrison's sister." Before Candace could process this information, she heard rapid footsteps in the hallway. The door, which she'd left ajar, swung open fully. Harrison Blake stood there, his usually neat hair disheveled, his tie loosened, his face pale. His eyes swept the room, landing first on Violet, then on Candace. Something complex passed across his features: relief, fear, resignation, and something else Candace couldn't quite name. "Violet," he said gently, completely ignoring Candace for the moment. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" "I knocked over the candle," Violet said, tears streaming down her face. "I was painting and I got too close and I knocked it over. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's okay. Accidents happen." Harrison's voice was soothing, the voice of someone who'd had this type of conversation before. He crossed the room and knelt beside his sister, not touching her but close enough to offer comfort. "The fire's out. Everything's fine. You're safe." Only after Violet's breathing had slowed did Harrison turn to look at Candace. His expression was unreadable. "Candace," he said quietly, "I think you and I need to have a very long conversation. Would you wait for me in the library downstairs?" It wasn't really a question. Candace nodded, taking one last look at Violet before leaving the room. As she walked down the stairs, her legs felt weak. She'd just broken the cardinal rule. She'd entered room 13. And now she was about to learn whether doing the right thing would cost her everything. The library was Candace's favorite room in the estate. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves held thousands of volumes, and the leather furniture invited you to sink in and stay a while. But today, as she sat in one of the wing chairs, all she could think about was the job she was about to lose and the mother she wouldn't be able to help. 20 minutes passed before Harrison entered. He'd composed himself, though his eyes still held that complex mix of emotions. He poured himself a glass of whiskey from the bar cart, then seemed to think better of it and set it down untouched. Instead, he took the chair across from Candace. "I'm not going to fire you," he said first, and Candace felt her lungs remember how to work. "But I do need to explain some things, and I need your word that what I tell you stays between us." "Of course, Mr. Blake. I would never." "Harrison," he interrupted gently. "If we're going to have this conversation, you should call me Harrison." Candace nodded, waiting. Harrison leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. For a moment, he looked much older than 35. "Violet is my younger sister. She's 24. 2 years ago, around the same time my wife died, Violet was attacked in her apartment. 3 men broke in while she was sleeping. They robbed her, hurt her, and left her traumatized in ways that go beyond physical injuries." Candace's hand went to her mouth. "Oh God, that's horrible. She survived, But something in her broke that night. She developed severe anxiety, panic attacks, agoraphobia. She couldn't leave her apartment. She couldn't function. The therapists tried everything, but she just kept getting worse. 6 months after the attack, she tried to take her own life. "I'm so sorry," Candace whispered. Harrison's jaw tightened. "I found her in time. I got her to the hospital, and then I brought her here. I turned the sunniest room in the house into a space where she could feel safe. I brought in her art supplies because painting was the only thing that seemed to calm her. And I made a rule that no one except me and Mrs. Patterson could enter, because new people terrified her." The pieces fell into place in Candace's mind. The meals delivered with precise timing. The music. The isolation. It wasn't cruelty or eccentricity. It was a brother trying desperately to keep his sister alive. "For 18 months, she hasn't left that room," Harrison continued. "Not once. She showers in the attached bathroom. She sleeps in the daybed by the window. She paints, and she reads, and she exists in that space because anywhere else feels too dangerous. The therapists come to her, though she barely speaks to them. I've tried everything, Candace. Everything. But today," Candace said slowly, "she spoke to me. She told me her name. I know. I was listening from the hallway." Harrison ran a hand through his hair. "When the alarm went off, I was actually in the house, not downtown. I heard it and ran upstairs. By the time I got there, you'd already gone in. I was terrified of how Violet would react, but also, I didn't want to burst in and make things worse. So you waited. I listened. And what I heard amazed me. Violet was scared, yes, but she talked to you. She responded to you. In 18 months, she hasn't spoken more than a few words to anyone except me. But you got her to tell you her name." Candace thought back to that moment. "Maybe because I didn't know who she was. I just treated her like a person who needed help." "Exactly." Harrison leaned back in his chair, studying Candace with an intensity that made her self-conscious. "This might sound strange, but I think you entering that room today might have been the best thing that could have happened. Not the fire, obviously, but you. A new person who didn't treat Violet like she was broken." "What are you saying?" Harrison took a deep breath. "I'm saying I want to hire you for a different position. I want you to help Violet. Spend time with her. Talk to her. Just be a presence that isn't me or Mrs. Patterson or another therapist with credentials and techniques. Someone normal and kind." "I'm not qualified for that," Candace protested. "I'm a maid, not a mental health professional." "I know. That's the point. All the professionals haven't helped. Maybe someone without training, someone with just genuine compassion, might reach her in ways they can't." Candace bit her lip. "Mr. Blake, Harrison, I can't just take on a responsibility like that without knowing if it will help or hurt. What if I make things worse?" "You won't. I saw how you handled the situation today. You were calm, respectful, unthreatening. Those are exactly the qualities Violet needs." He paused, then played his final card. "And I'll pay you triple your current salary. Plus, I'll cover all of your mother's medical expenses. Everything. Every treatment, every medication, every bill. You'll never have to worry about choosing between her health and your job again." The offer hung in the air between them, massive and life-changing. Candace's mind whirled. Triple salary. All medical expenses covered. Her mother could get the best care available, not just what insurance permitted. The financial burden that had been crushing her for months would simply disappear. But more than that, she thought of Violet's terrified eyes and the moment when that terror had faded slightly, when the young woman had trusted her enough to share her name. If there was even a chance Candace could help someone heal from such profound trauma, didn't she have an obligation to try? "I accept," Candace said, the words coming out strong and sure. "Tell me what I need to do." The next morning, Candace arrived at the estate with a mix of nervousness and determination swirling in her stomach. Harrison had spent another hour the previous evening explaining Violet's triggers, her patterns, and what seemed to help versus what made things worse. But no amount of explanation could fully prepare Candace for the reality of helping someone with such deep psychological wounds. Mrs. Patterson met her at the door with a knowing look. Mr. Blake told me about your new arrangement. I won't pretend I'm not relieved. I've been worried about Miss Violet for so long. If you need anything, any advice or support, you come find me. Thank you, Candace said, grateful for the older woman's support. Just remember, progress with her will be slow. Some days will feel like steps backward. Don't get discouraged. Candace nodded and made her way up to room 13. She knocked twice, as Mrs. Patterson always did, then called out, "Violet? It's Candace. I'm coming in, okay?" "Okay," came the soft reply. Candace entered to find Violet at an easel by the windows, painting what looked like a sunset. The young woman didn't turn around, but her shoulders weren't hunched in fear the way they'd been yesterday. "That's beautiful," Candace said honestly, staying near the door. "The colors are incredible." "Thank you. I've never actually seen a sunset from anywhere but this window, but I paint them a lot. Different colors each time." The casual admission of being confined to one room for so long made Candace's heart ache. But she kept her voice light. "Well, you're capturing something special. May I sit down?" "The blue chair is comfortable," Violet said, still focused on her canvas. Candace settled into the indicated chair and simply sat for a while, watching Violet work. There was something meditative about the quiet, the soft scratch of brush on canvas, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. After about 10 minutes, Violet finally turned to look at her. "Harrison said you're going to spend time with me now. That he's paying you to be my friend." There was no bitterness in Violet's voice, just a statement of fact. "He's paying me to spend time with you," Candace corrected gently. "But friendship isn't something you can pay for. That either happens or it doesn't. Why would you want to be friends with someone like me? I'm broken. Everyone knows it." Candace considered her words carefully. "I don't think you're broken. I think you went through something terrible, and you're doing your best to cope. That takes a lot of strength." "Strength?" Violet laughed, but it was a sad sound. "I haven't left this room in a year and a half. That's not strength. That's cowardice." "No," Candace said firmly. "That's survival. You're still here. You're still painting. You're still trying. That's not cowardice." Violet was quiet for a moment, a tear sliding down her cheek. "My therapist says I need to face my fears. Push through the anxiety. But every time I even think about stepping through that door, I can't breathe. My heart races so fast I think I'm dying. How am I supposed to push through that?" "Maybe you don't have to push. Maybe you can just take the smallest step, and then stop and rest. Then another small step when you're ready." Candace leaned forward slightly. "What if we set a goal that isn't about leaving the room at all? What if we just aim for you to be comfortable with me being here?" "I think I could do that," Violet said quietly. "I already feel more comfortable than I expected to. You're easy to be around." They spent the next 2 hours talking about small things. Candace told Violet about her mother, about her favorite foods, about a funny thing that happened at her old job. Violet talked about painting techniques, about the books she'd been reading, about memories from before the attack. It wasn't therapy. It was just two women getting to know each other. When Candace finally left, she found Harrison waiting in the hallway. His expression was hopeful. "How did it go?" "Good, I think. We just talked. She showed me some of her paintings. They're really talented." "She used to have gallery showings," Harrison said quietly. "Before. She was starting to make a name for herself in the art world. She could do that again. Maybe not right away, but someday." Harrison studied Candace for a moment. "You really believe that, don't you? That she can get better?" "I have to believe it. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?" "I like your optimism," Harrison said, and for the first time since she'd met him, he smiled a genuine smile. "It's been in short supply around here." Over the next 2 weeks, Candace fell into a new routine. She spent mornings doing light cleaning in other parts of the house, then afternoons with Violet. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they sat in comfortable silence while Violet painted and Candace read. Sometimes they watched movies on the large television Harrison had installed in the room. Violet slowly opened up about the attack, the nightmares, the overwhelming fear that anyone could hurt her at any moment. Candice listened without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just present and accepting. "My therapist says I have PTSD," Violet told her one afternoon. "Post-traumatic stress disorder. It sounds so clinical, like I'm a diagnosis instead of a person." "You're definitely a person," Candice assured her. "A complex, creative, interesting person who's dealing with PTSD, not defined by it. That's what Harrison says too. He's been so patient with me. I know I'm a burden. You're his sister. You're not a burden. You're someone he loves." Violet was quiet for a moment. "He doesn't talk much about Catherine, his wife. But I know he misses her terribly. She was kind, like you. She would have liked you. I'm sorry he lost her. And I'm sorry you lost her too. The worst part is that he was dealing with his own grief when I fell apart. He had to put aside his own pain to take care of me. I hate that I did that to him." "You didn't do anything to him. Life happened. Terrible things happened to both of you. He chose to be there for you because that's what family does." As the days passed, Candice noticed small changes in Violet. She smiled more easily. Her laugh came more naturally. She seemed less fragile, though the fear was still there, lurking beneath the surface. And Candice noticed changes in Harrison too. He seemed lighter, less burdened. He started joining them sometimes in the evening, the three of them talking and laughing together. He told stories about his and Violet's childhood, funny memories that made Violet giggle and add her own details. Candice found herself looking forward to these evenings more than she wanted to admit. Harrison was intelligent and thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard. When he looked at her, really looked at her, she felt something stir that she hadn't felt in a long time. But she pushed those feelings aside. He was her employer. She was here to help Violet, nothing more. Getting emotionally involved would be a mistake. Or so she told herself. Then came the day that changed everything. Candice had been working at the estate for 5 weeks. She arrived one morning to find Harrison waiting for her in the foyer, his expression serious. "I need to show you something," he said. "Come with me." He led her to his office, where papers were spread across his desk. "I've arranged for your mother to be transferred to the best cancer treatment center in the state. Top specialists, cutting-edge treatments, private room. Everything is taken care of. The arrangements can be made as early as next week if she agrees." Candice stared at the papers, her eyes filling with tears. "Harrison, this is too much." "No," he said firmly. "It's not nearly enough. You've given Violet something I couldn't. Hope. Let me do this. Please." And once again, Candice found herself accepting an offer that would change her life, because refusing would be refusing a gift not just to her mother, but to herself. The gift of believing that good things could happen, that kindness existed, that she deserved help. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Harrison reached out and gently touched her shoulder. "Thank you, Candice. For everything." In that moment, something shifted between them, something neither was quite ready to name but both could feel. The transfer of Candice's mother to the Blake Memorial Cancer Center happened with stunning efficiency. Within a week, Lorraine Johnson was settled into a spacious private room with views of a garden, a team of specialists reviewing her case, and a treatment plan that actually offered hope rather than just survival. "Baby, I don't understand," Lorraine said when Candice visited that first day. "How did you manage all this?" Candice sat on the edge of the bed, holding her mother's hand. "My employer helped. He's generous and kind. He wanted to make sure you got the best care possible. This employer of yours must think very highly of you. I'm helping his sister through a difficult time. He's grateful, that's all." But Lorraine's knowing look suggested she suspected there might be more to the story. Mothers always did. Back at the estate, Candice found Violet waiting at the window of room 13, watching for her return. It was a new development, this anticipation of Candice's arrival. A good sign. "How's your mom?" Violet asked immediately. "Settled in. Comfortable. The doctors sound optimistic about a new treatment protocol. I'm glad." Violet twisted her hands together. "Candice, can I ask you something?" Of course. Do you think, maybe sometime, your mom might want to video chat with me? I know that sounds weird, but I've heard you talk about her so much, I feel like I know her a little. And I thought it might be nice to, I don't know, say hello. Candace felt warmth bloom in her chest. This was significant. Violet wanting to connect with someone new, even through a screen, was progress. I think she'd love that. She's been asking about you, actually. Really? Really? I may have mentioned that I've become friends with a brilliant artist who's teaching me to appreciate modern painting. Violet ducked her head, pleased. I'm not brilliant. Yes, you are. You're just also dealing with some hard things. But brilliance and struggle can exist in the same person. They set up the video call that evening. Lorraine appeared on the tablet screen, looking tired but happy. So you're the famous Violet I've been hearing about. Hello, Mrs. Johnson. I hope you're feeling okay. Please, call me Lorraine. And I'm doing much better, thanks to your brother's generosity and my daughter's new job. Lorraine's eyes twinkled. Though I suspect she's getting more than just a paycheck out of this arrangement. Mom, Candace warned. What? I'm just saying, you smile a lot more these days. And you talk about Harrison with a certain tone in your voice. Violet giggled, actually giggled, and Candace felt her face heat. I do not. You absolutely do, Violet agreed. You get this soft look when he comes into the room. I'm going to hang up this call, Candace threatened, but she was laughing too. The three women talked for nearly an hour, the conversation flowing easily. Lorraine shared stories from Candace's childhood. Violet talked about painting. They discussed books and movies and silly things that made them laugh. When they finally said goodbye, Candace saw tears on Violet's cheeks. That was wonderful, Violet said. Thank you for sharing your mom with me. She loved it. And Violet, I'm proud of you. I know talking to someone new isn't easy. It's easier with you here. You make me feel brave. The days continued to pass, and the changes in Violet became more pronounced. She started standing near the door of room 13 while Candace was in the hallway, talking through the open doorway. Small conversations, just a few minutes at a time, but each one a victory. She began asking about the rest of the house, what other rooms looked like, what was happening in the world beyond her windows. I used to love going to museums, Violet told Candace one afternoon. The Modern Art Museum downtown had this incredible collection. I could spend hours there. Maybe someday you'll go back. Maybe, Violet said, but her voice held doubt. The thought of all those people, all that space, all those things that could go wrong, it's too much. Then we break it down. What's the first step toward going to a museum? Violet thought about it. Leaving this room. Okay. And what's the first step toward leaving this room? I don't know. Opening the door. You already do that sometimes. What's the next step? Putting one foot in the hallway? That sounds manageable. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday when you feel ready, we try that. One foot in the hallway. That's all. Violet nodded slowly. One foot in the hallway. I think I could maybe do that. Harrison noticed the changes too. Candace often caught him watching his sister with an expression of wonder, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. One evening, after Violet had gone to sleep, he found Candace in the library. Can we talk? He asked. Of course. He sat down, and for a moment, he just looked at her. I don't know how to thank you properly. What you've done for Violet in just over a month, it's more than I dared to hope for. She's doing the hard work. I'm just showing up. You're doing more than showing up. You're believing in her. You're treating her like she's capable of healing, not like she's permanently damaged. That belief is powerful. Candace felt self-conscious under his gaze. Anyone would do the same. No, they wouldn't. Most people are uncomfortable around pain and trauma. They want to fix it fast or avoid it entirely. You just sit with it. You let Violet feel what she feels without judgment. That's a rare gift. The air between them felt charged somehow, full of things unsaid. Candace became aware of how close they were sitting, how his eyes seemed to hold hers with unusual intensity. Harrison, she started, then stopped, unsure what she wanted to say. I know this is complicated, he said quietly. "I'm your employer. You're here to help my sister. There are boundaries that should probably be maintained. But Candice, I need you to know that having you here, seeing you every day, talking with you in the evenings, it's meant something to me. Something more than just gratitude for what you're doing for Violet." Candice's heart hammered. "I don't think we should. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just being honest. You've brought life back into this house. You've reminded me that good things can still happen, that connection is still possible. Whether anything ever comes of these feelings, I wanted you to know they exist." Before Candice could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from the hospital. She glanced at it and felt her heart sink. "It's my mom. She's asking me to come. She's having a rough night." "Go," Harrison said immediately. "Take the car. Take whatever time you need." Candice arrived at the hospital to find her mother struggling with pain from the latest round of treatment. She sat beside the bed, holding Lorraine's hand through the difficult hours. Finally, near midnight, her mother's pain medication kicked in and she relaxed into sleep. Candice's phone buzzed again. A text from Harrison. "How is she?" "Resting now. It was a rough evening. I'm sorry. Do you need anything?" "Just some sleep. I'll be back tomorrow. Take the day off if you need to." "Thank you." But she couldn't stop thinking about what Harrison had said earlier. About feelings. About connection. About the way he looked at her. She thought about it on the drive home. She thought about it as she lay in bed, exhausted but unable to sleep. And she admitted to herself what she'd been trying to deny: she had feelings for Harrison too. Complicated, inconvenient, undeniable feelings. But she also knew that right now, Violet had to be the priority. Anything else would have to wait. "I'm going to do it today." Candice looked up from the book she'd been reading to find Violet standing near the door of room 13, her hand resting on the frame. It had been 6 weeks since Candice started spending time with Violet, and they'd talked about this moment several times, but this was the first time Violet had declared her intention without prompting. "You're ready?" Candice asked, keeping her voice calm despite her racing heart. "I think so. I'm terrified, but I want to try. You'll be right there. Right beside you. And if it's too much, we stop immediately. No judgment, no pressure. You're in control." Violet took a deep breath. She was dressed in jeans and a soft green sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked young and vulnerable but also determined. Okay. Let's do this before I change my mind." Candice stood and walked to the doorway, but stayed inside the room. "I'm here. Whenever you're ready." Violet closed her eyes for a moment. Her breathing was rapid, and her hands trembled. But she opened her eyes, squared her shoulders, and lifted her right foot. Slowly, so slowly, she extended it across the threshold into the hallway. 1 foot in the hallway. The goal they'd set weeks ago. Such a small thing, really. 6 inches of movement. But Candice knew it represented so much more: courage, trust, hope. Violet's foot touched the hardwood floor of the hallway and stayed there. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Her face was pale and sweat beaded on her forehead, but she held the position. "You're doing it," Candice said softly. "You're doing so well. I feel like I'm going to throw up." "That's the anxiety. Your body is remembering fear, but you're safe." "I'm here." "You're safe." Violet held her foot in the hallway for a full minute before pulling it back inside. She immediately sank to the floor, her back against the wall, breathing hard. "That was incredible," Candice said, sitting down beside her. "Do you know how brave you just were? I only put 1 foot out. That's pathetic. That's progress. That's a victory. Don't diminish it." Violet leaned her head on Candice's shoulder, something she'd started doing over the past weeks when she needed comfort. "It felt like jumping off a cliff. I know. But you did it anyway. That's what courage looks like. It's not the absence of fear. It's doing the thing even though you're terrified." They sat there for a while, just breathing together. Finally, Violet spoke again. "I want to try something else." "What's that?" "I want to meet your mom in person. Not on a video call. In person." Candice's breath caught. "Violet, That would mean leaving the estate. Going to the hospital. That's a huge step. I know. But your mom is sick. And I've been talking to her almost every day. She feels safe. If I'm going to leave this room, I want it to be for something that matters. Visiting someone I care about matters. Candace felt tears prick her eyes. Let's talk to Harrison. We'll need to plan this carefully. But yes. If you're ready, we'll make it happen. When Harrison heard about Violet's plan, his reaction was a mix of joy and terror. What if it's too much? What if she has a panic attack in the car? Then we deal with it, Candace said firmly. They were in his office, speaking privately. But Harrison, she's ready to try. We can't hold her back out of our own fear. You're right. I know you're right. It's just, after 18 months of her being unable to leave that room, the thought of her out in the world, what if something happens? What if something wonderful happens? What if she realizes she's stronger than she thinks? Harrison ran a hand through his hair. You're right. Okay. Let's plan this. We'll take my car. I'll drive. You'll sit in the back with Violet. We'll go early morning when there's less traffic. We'll have a plan B if she needs to turn back. They spent the next day preparing. Harrison called the hospital and arranged for a private room where they could visit without Violet being exposed to crowded hallways. Candace talked Violet through what to expect, the car ride, the hospital entrance, seeing Lorraine in a hospital bed. What if I freeze? Violet asked. What if I get there and can't move? Then we wait until you can. Or we come home and try again another day. There's no failure here, Violet. Only attempts. The morning of the visit, Candace arrived at the estate to find Violet already dressed and waiting. She was pale but composed. I didn't sleep much, she admitted. But I'm ready. Harrison brought the car around to a side entrance to minimize the distance Violet had to walk outside. He'd clearly been up early too, his eyes showing his own sleepless night. When it was time, Candace took Violet's hand. One step at a time. We've got you. Violet nodded and walked through the door of room 13. Into the hallway. Down the stairs. Through the side door. And into the sunlight. She stopped there, frozen on the threshold between inside and outside. The morning air was cool, birds were singing, and the world spread out before her. Tears streamed down her face. It's so big, she whispered. I forgot how big everything is. You're doing great, Candace said, squeezing her hand. The car is right there. Just a few more steps. Violet took those steps, climbed into the back seat, and immediately closed her eyes as Harrison started driving. Candace held her hand the entire ride, providing a steady anchor as Violet's breathing grew ragged with anxiety. Talk to me, Violet gasped. Please just talk. About anything. So Candace talked. About her favorite memories with her mother. About silly things that happened at previous jobs. About her dreams for the future. Anything to keep Violet grounded in the present moment rather than lost in her fear. When they arrived at the hospital, Violet's hands were shaking so badly she could barely walk. But she walked. Through the entrance, into the elevator, down the hallway to the private room where Lorraine waited. The moment Lorraine saw Violet, her face lit up. Oh honey, look at you. Look at this brave girl. Come here. Violet made it 3 steps into the room before breaking down in sobs. But they were sobs of relief, of accomplishment, of release. Lorraine opened her arms and Violet went to her, letting this woman she'd only known through a screen hold her while she cried. You did it, Lorraine murmured. You left your safe space and you came to see me. Do you know how special that is? Do you know how strong you are? They stayed for an hour. Violet sat beside Lorraine's bed, their hands clasped, talking about art and hope and healing. Harrison and Candace stood back, giving them space, both aware they were witnessing something profound. On the drive home, Violet was exhausted but peaceful. Thank you, she said quietly. Both of you. For believing I could do that. You did it yourself, Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. We just drove the car. That evening, after Violet had gone to sleep, Harrison found Candace in the library again. Without a word, He pulled her into a hug. She stiffened in surprise, then relaxed against him, feeling the rapid beat of his heart against her cheek. "Thank you," he whispered into her hair. "Thank you for giving me my sister back." Candace pulled back slightly to look at him. His eyes were wet with unshed tears, and in that moment, all the boundaries and professional distance she'd been trying to maintain crumbled. "Harrison," she started, but he shook his head. I know this is complicated. I know I'm your employer and this is inappropriate and there are 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't. But Candace, I can't keep pretending I don't have feelings for you. These past weeks, watching you with Violet, talking to you every evening, I've fallen for you. Completely. Irrevocably. I have feelings for you too, Candace admitted, the words tumbling out. I've been trying not to, trying to stay professional, but I do. I care about you. More than I should. Then why are we fighting it? Because what if it doesn't work? What if I'm just someone who came along at the right time, when you were grateful and vulnerable? What if these feelings aren't real? Harrison cupped her face gently with both hands. What if they are real? What if this is the start of something wonderful? Candace, I lost my wife 2 years ago. I thought I'd never feel anything for anyone again. But you've shown me that my heart still works. That I can still hope. Please, give us a chance. Looking into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, Candace made another decision that would change her life. Okay. Yes. Let's give us a chance. What happens when the help you give opens your heart in ways you never expected? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to see how this love story unfolds. The next 2 months brought changes to the Blake estate that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Violet continued to venture outside room 13, first just into the hallway, then to other rooms in the house. She had setbacks, days where the anxiety overwhelmed her and she couldn't leave her safe space. But she also had triumphs, moments where she surprised everyone, including herself. One morning, she appeared in the kitchen for breakfast. Mrs. Patterson nearly dropped the teapot she was holding. "Miss Violet, you're downstairs." "I wanted to try," Violet said, her voice shaky but proud. "Plus, I wanted to see where Candace makes that amazing coffee." Candace, who was indeed making coffee, grinned at her. "You made it all the way to the kitchen. That's at least 40 steps from your room." I counted. It was 43. And I'm currently trying not to think about how I have to walk back. "One thing at a time," Candace reminded her. "Coffee first. Everything else later." Harrison arrived in the kitchen and stopped short at seeing his sister sitting at the table. His face did something complicated, a mix of joy and disbelief. "Violet. Don't make a big deal out of it or I'll retreat back upstairs," Violet warned, but she was smiling. They had breakfast together, the 4 of them, and it felt normal in the best possible way. Mrs. Patterson cooked eggs and told stories about her grandchildren. Violet talked about a painting she was working on. Harrison discussed a business deal he was negotiating. And Candace just soaked it all in, marveling at how far they'd all come. After breakfast, Harrison asked Candace to walk with him in the garden. It had become their routine over the past weeks, these morning walks where they could talk privately, away from the house and its memories. "I've been thinking," Harrison said as they strolled between rose bushes, "about the future. About what happens next." "What do you mean?" "Violet is getting better. Not completely healed, that will take time, but better. Eventually, she won't need constant support. She'll be ready to move forward with her life. Which means the reason you're here, the job I hired you for, will be complete." Candace's stomach dropped. She'd been so focused on helping Violet and enjoying her growing connection with Harrison that she hadn't thought about what would happen when her services were no longer needed. "Oh, I hadn't considered that." "I have," Harrison said, stopping to face her. "And I have a proposal. But first, I need to ask you something. What we have, this connection between us, is it real? Or is it circumstantial? Are you with me because you work for me, because you're grateful for what I've done for your mother, because you feel obligated?" "No," Candace said firmly. "I'm with you because when I'm around you, I feel seen. I feel valued. I feel like myself in ways I never have before. My feelings for you have nothing to do with gratitude or obligation. Harrison's expression softened. Good. Because my feelings for you are about who you are, not what you do for my sister. You're smart and kind and brave. You challenge me. You make me laugh. You've reminded me what it feels like to look forward to something, to care about someone's opinion, to want to share my day with another person. So what's your proposal? Candace asked, though her heart was already racing with possibility. Stop being Violet's companion. Not because she doesn't need you, but because I want there to be no confusion about our relationship. I want you in my life as an equal, as a partner, not as an employee. We'll find another therapist for Violet if she needs one. But you and we should be free to explore this without professional complications. What would I do? I can't just not work. You could do anything you want. Go back to school if that interests you. Start a business. Volunteer. Or if you want to keep working here, we could find a different role that doesn't involve direct care for Violet. But the point is, the choice would be yours. You'd be with me because you choose to be, not because you're being paid. Candace thought about it. The offer was generous, almost too generous. But she also understood what Harrison was really asking, for their relationship to be built on choice rather than circumstance, on love rather than transaction. I accept, she said. But on one condition. I want to help you figure out what to do with room 13. What do you mean? That room was created as a sanctuary for Violet when she needed it. But it's also become a symbol of her fear, her limitation. When she's ready, I think she should decide what to do with it. Transform it into something new, or leave it behind entirely. Either way, the decision should be hers. Harrison nodded slowly. That's wise. And kind. You're always thinking about what's best for her. I care about her. She's become my friend. She loves you, Harrison said simply. She told me so. She said you saved her life. She saved her own life. I just believed in her. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, and then Harrison said, I'd like to take you on a proper date. Not walks in my garden or conversations in my library, but a real date. Dinner somewhere nice. Dancing if you'd like. The whole traditional experience. Candace laughed. I'd love that. Though I have to warn you, I'm a terrible dancer. Then we'll be terrible together. That evening, Candace helped Violet finish a painting of the garden, the same garden where Harrison had just proposed a new chapter in their relationship. As they worked, Violet said casually, You know Harrison is in love with you, right? Candace nearly dropped her paintbrush. He told you that. He didn't have to. I can see it. The way he looks at you, the way he lights up when you enter a room. I've never seen him like this, not even with Catherine. Violet paused, then added, and I can see you love him too. Is that okay with you? I know this is complicated. It's perfect, Violet said firmly. You've given me so much. You've helped me find my way back to life. The idea that you and Harrison could be happy together, that you could become part of this family permanently, it makes me happier than anything. We're taking things slowly, Candace said. But yes, I think I do love him. Is that crazy? We've only really known each other for a couple of months. Love doesn't follow a timeline. It just happens when it happens. Violet smiled. Besides, you two have been through a lot together. That creates bonds faster than normal circumstances. Their first official date was the following weekend. Harrison took Candace to an elegant restaurant downtown. She wore a blue dress she'd bought specifically for the occasion, and when Harrison saw her, his expression made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. Over dinner, they talked about everything, their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Harrison told her about his marriage to Catherine, how they'd been college sweethearts, how her death had shattered him. I didn't think I'd ever feel whole again, he admitted. I threw myself into work and taking care of Violet because feeling anything else was too painful. But you've helped me heal too, Candace. Not just my sister. Me. You've done the same for me, Candace said. Before this job, I was drowning. Working constantly, scared all the time about money and my mom's health. I felt like I was failing at everything. But you saw something in me I didn't see in myself. After dinner, They walked along the riverfront, hand in hand. The city lights reflected on the water, and the night air was warm. It felt like a perfect moment, the kind you want to freeze and keep forever. "I have something to tell you," Harrison said. "Your mother's doctors say she's in remission. The treatment worked. She's going to be okay." Candace stopped walking. "What? When did you hear this?" "This afternoon. They called me because I'm listed as the financial guarantor. I wanted to tell you in person, not over the phone." He smiled. "Your mother is going to be fine, Candace." The tears came then, relief and joy mixing together. Harrison held her while she cried, and in that moment, she felt the last piece of fear she'd been carrying finally release its grip. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "For everything. For my mom, for believing in Violet, for seeing me. Thank you for teaching me how to hope again." They stood there on the riverfront, holding each other, two people who'd found unexpected love in the midst of struggle and healing. And for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright. 3 months after Candace first entered room 13, Violet announced she was ready for her biggest challenge yet. They were having lunch together in the garden, a new routine that Violet had initiated, when she said, "I want to visit your mom again. And I want to take a different route there. Through the city. Not the fastest way, the scenic way." Candace set down her fork. "That's a big step. You're talking about being in the car for almost an hour, seeing lots of people, lots of buildings." "I know. But I've been thinking about what you said months ago. About museums. About art galleries. About my work being shown again. If I'm going to do those things, I need to be able to handle being out in the world." Violet's hands were steady as she spoke, a far cry from the trembling woman who could barely step into the hallway. "And I want to do it with you and Harrison. My two favorite people." They planned the trip carefully. Harrison arranged for Lorraine to be in a visiting lounge rather than her hospital room, a space with comfortable chairs and windows overlooking a park. Candace mapped out a route that would take them through some of the city's nicest neighborhoods, past the art museum, through the shopping district. The morning of the trip, Violet appeared downstairs wearing jeans and a pretty lavender blouse, her hair styled, makeup on. She looked beautiful and brave and terrified all at once. "I can do this," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "I can do this." The drive started smoothly. Violet sat in the back seat between Candace and Mrs. Patterson, who had asked to come along for support. Harrison drove, narrating their route like a tour guide. "On your left, that's the contemporary art gallery where you had your first solo show," he told Violet. "Remember? You sold every piece that night." Violet looked out the window, her face pale but focused. "I remember. That was a good night." As they drove through busier areas, Violet's breathing quickened. But instead of panic, she started talking. "That building, the tall glass one, Catherine and I had lunch there once. We spent 3 hours talking about art and life and dreams. She was such a good listener." Harrison's eyes met Candace's in the rearview mirror. This was the first time Violet had voluntarily mentioned Catherine in months. "She would be proud of you," Harrison said quietly. "So proud." They reached the hospital and found Lorraine waiting in the lounge, looking healthier than Candace had seen her in months. The remission was holding. Her color was good, her energy better. "There's my brave girl," Lorraine said as Violet entered. She'd started calling Violet that after their first meeting, and Violet had embraced the nickname. They spent 2 hours together, talking and laughing. Lorraine showed them photos on her phone of her garden at home, which she was planning to expand once she was released. Violet talked about a new painting series she wanted to create, inspired by her journey from fear to courage. "You should call it Emergence," Lorraine suggested. "Because that's what you're doing. Emerging from darkness into light." "I love that," Violet said. "Emergence." "Yes." On the drive home, something shifted. Violet asked Harrison to take them past her old apartment building, the place where the attack had happened. Candace tensed, worried this might be too much, but Violet seemed determined. They stopped across the street from the building. Violet stared at it for a long time. "I lived there for 3 years," she said quietly. "I was happy there, until I wasn't. I let that one terrible night define the whole place, the whole chapter of my life. But there were good times too. I painted some of my best work in that apartment. I had friends over. I felt independent and strong. You're still strong, Candace said. I know. But I think I needed to see this place again, to remember that one bad thing doesn't erase all the good things. That I'm more than what happened to me. Violet took a deep breath. Okay. I'm ready to go home now. That evening, Harrison organized a celebration dinner. The dining room, which had been mostly unused for years, was set with the good china and crystal. Mrs. Patterson prepared Violet's favorite meal. They dressed up, as if this were a special occasion. Because it was. At dinner, Harrison stood and raised his glass. To Violet, who faced her fears today and won. And to Candace, who believed in all of us when we'd stopped believing in ourselves. And to Catherine, who I know is watching and smiling. We love you, and we miss you, but we're finding our way forward. They clinked glasses, and Candace saw tears on everyone's faces. But they were good tears, the kind that come from healing and hope. After dinner, Violet announced her decision about room 13. I'm going to turn it into a proper art studio, but not just for me. I want it to be a space where other artists can come and work. People who are dealing with trauma, who need a safe place to create. I'll call it the Catherine Blake Memorial Studio, in honor of the woman who always encouraged my art. Harrison's voice was thick when he spoke. She would love that. Thank you, Violet. Later that night, Harrison found Candace on the terrace, looking up at the stars. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she leaned into his warmth. Today was a good day, he said. Today was a great day. Candace, I need to tell you something. Actually, I need to ask you something. He turned her around to face him. These past few months with you have been the happiest I've been in years. You've brought joy back into this house. You've helped my sister heal. You've helped me heal. I don't want to imagine my life without you in it. Candace's heart started to race. Harrison. I know this might seem fast. I know we've only been officially together for a short time. But when you've lived through loss, you learn not to wait for the perfect moment. You learn to grab happiness when you find it. He took her hands in his. I love you, Candace. I love your strength, your compassion, your laugh. I love how you believe in people. I love who I am when I'm with you. And I want to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me. I love you too, Candace said, tears streaming down her face. So much. Then marry me. Be my wife. Be part of this family. Let's build a future together. There was no hesitation in Candace's heart, no doubt about her answer. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Harrison kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And when they finally pulled apart, Candace saw Violet watching from the window, jumping up and down with excitement. Some love stories start in the strangest places. Some healings happen when you least expect them. And sometimes, the best things in life come from taking chances and believing in the possibility of happiness. Could you risk everything for love? Share this story if you believe in second chances and subscribe to see more heartwarming tales. 6 months later, the Blake estate was transformed. Room 13, now officially the Catherine Blake Memorial Studio, had been renovated with more windows, better lighting, and space for multiple artists to work. Violet had interviewed and selected 3 other trauma survivors to join her in a shared creative space. The sound of laughter and conversation regularly floated down the hallways, replacing the silence that had once dominated the second floor. Violet herself had moved into a small apartment in the city, close enough to visit the estate regularly but independent enough to prove to herself that she could manage on her own. She'd had a few setbacks, moments where the anxiety threatened to overwhelm her. But she'd developed coping strategies, and she had a support system that believed in her. She was even planning her first small gallery showing in 2 months. Lorraine had been released from the hospital and was living with Candace in her apartment until the wedding. The 2 women had grown close, often cooking together and sharing stories. Lorraine's garden, which she tended with passionate dedication, was thriving. The wedding was planned for a Saturday in June, in the estate's garden. Nothing too large or fancy, just close friends and family. Harrison had wanted to give Candace whatever kind of wedding she dreamed of, but she'd insisted on something simple and meaningful. "I don't need elaborate," she'd told him. "I just need you." The morning of the wedding, Candace woke in her old apartment, her mother already up and making coffee. Today was the day. Today she was marrying Harrison Blake, the man who'd started as her employer and become the love of her life. "Nervous?" Lorraine asked as Candace emerged from the bedroom. "Excited," Candace corrected. "Not nervous. Excited." Violet arrived an hour later with the dresses and Mrs. Patterson, who had insisted on helping with the preparations. The four women laughed and talked as they got ready, creating memories that Candace knew she'd treasure forever. "You've been like a daughter to me," Mrs. Patterson said as she helped Candace with her hair. "I'm so happy to see you marry Mr. Blake. He's been a different man since you came into his life. Lighter. Happier. She's been good for all of us," Violet added. "She's the sister I always wanted." When Candace put on her wedding dress, simple white with delicate lace, she felt beautiful. Not because of the dress, but because of the life she was stepping into, the family she was joining, the love she'd found. The ceremony took place in late afternoon, when the garden was bathed in soft light. Chairs were arranged on the lawn facing a flower-covered arbor. About 50 guests had gathered, people from Harrison's business world mixed with Candace's friends and former co-workers. As Candace walked down the makeshift aisle on her mother's arm, she saw Harrison waiting at the arbor. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit, and the expression on his face when he saw her made her heart skip. Pure love, pure joy, pure certainty. Lorraine placed Candace's hand in Harrison's, then whispered, "Be happy, baby. You deserve this." The officiant kept the ceremony brief, focusing on love, partnership, and choosing each other every day. When it came time for vows, Harrison went first. "Candace, when you walked into my life, I was lost. I didn't know it because I'd become so good at just surviving, at going through the motions. But you woke me up. You showed me that life could still be beautiful, that love could still exist, that hope was still possible. You saved my sister, but you also saved me. I promise to spend every day trying to be worthy of your love. I promise to support your dreams, to laugh with you, to hold you when things are hard. I promise to choose you, every day, for the rest of my life." Candace's turn came, and she had to take a breath to steady herself. "Harrison, someone once told me that love doesn't follow a timeline, it just happens when it happens. I didn't expect to fall in love with you. I didn't expect to find a home in your family. But I'm so grateful I did. You've given me so much, not just material things but belief in myself, confidence in my worth, proof that good men exist in the world. I promise to stand by you in success and struggle. I promise to bring joy to your days and comfort to your nights. I promise to love Violet like my own sister. And I promise to choose you, every single day, for the rest of my life. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Harrison pulled Candace close and kissed her as their guests cheered. It was a kiss full of promise, of future, of forever. The reception was held on the estate's terrace, with music and dancing and food. Violet gave a toast that made everyone cry. "My brother has been my protector and my champion my whole life. When I was at my lowest, when I thought I'd never find my way back, he never gave up on me. And then he brought Candace into our lives, and everything changed. Candace taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. She taught me that healing is possible, that connection matters, that love can grow in unexpected places. Harrison, you chose well. Candace, welcome to our family. We love you." Lorraine also gave a toast, talking about how proud she was of her daughter, how grateful she was for Harrison's generosity, and how blessed they all were to have found each other. As the evening wore on, Harrison and Candace took a quiet moment away from the party, walking hand in hand through the garden where they'd had so many important conversations. "Happy?" Harrison asked. "Incredibly," Candace replied. "I keep thinking about that day I opened the door to room 13. How scared I was. How sure I was that I was about to lose my job. I had no idea I was actually opening the door to my future. I think about that day too. When I heard the fire alarm and ran upstairs, terrified of what I'd find. I never imagined that the woman who broke my most important rule would become the most important person in my life. Life is strange that way. Life is wonderful that way. Harrison stopped walking and turned to face her. I have something for you. A wedding present. Harrison, you've already given me so much. This is different. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. Open it. Inside was a check, made out to a charity Candace had mentioned once in passing, an organization that helped low-income families pay for medical care. The amount made her gasp. This is $250,000. It's in your name, Harrison said. To donate or to start your own foundation if you prefer. I know you've wanted to help other people the way I helped your mother. Now you can. Candace threw her arms around him. Thank you. This is perfect. I can't even put into words what this means. You don't have to. I see it in your face. They rejoined the party and danced together under the stars. Candace's simple wedding had turned into something magical, not because of elegance or expense, but because of love and community and hope. As midnight approached and guests began to leave, Violet pulled Candace aside. I have something for you too. A painting. It's wrapped up in the library. It's for you and Harrison, for your new life together. Later, after all the guests had gone and it was just the four of them, Harrison, Candace, Violet, and Lorraine, they unwrapped the painting. It showed the garden of the estate, but painted in a style that was both realistic and dreamlike. In the foreground was a door, standing open, with light streaming through it. The painting was titled Emergence. It's beautiful, Candace whispered. Violet, this is incredible. It's about all of us, Violet explained. About stepping through doors we're afraid to open. About finding light on the other side of darkness. About family, chosen and born. It's about second chances. That night, as Candace and Harrison finally had a moment alone, they stood in what had once been room 13 and looked out the windows at the garden below. I'm thinking we should have a tradition, Candace said. Every year on our anniversary, we come back to this room and remember where we started. Remember that beautiful things can come from difficult circumstances. I like that, Harrison agreed. Though I also think we should start some new traditions. Maybe traveling together. Maybe starting a family someday. Maybe just making sure we dance in the kitchen on Sunday mornings. All of that sounds perfect. You know what the best part is? Harrison pulled her close. We get to figure it out together. Every day, every challenge, every joy. Together. Together, Candace echoed, and kissed her husband. 1 year later, the Catherine Blake Memorial Studio had expanded to serve 12 trauma survivors. Violet had her first major gallery show, which sold out in 2 days. Lorraine's garden had won awards from the local horticultural society. And Candace had started a foundation that helped 50 families with medical expenses. But more than any of those accomplishments, the Blake family, both born and chosen, had learned the most important lesson: that love and healing are possible, that second chances exist, that courage comes in many forms, and that sometimes the best things in life come from opening doors you were told to keep closed. Room 13 no longer held secrets. It held hope. And in the end, that made all the difference.